Hi everyone, my name is Mathieu Pont and I'm glad to present this joint work done with Jules, Vidal and Julien Tierny. It is motivated by the analysis and the visualization of an ensemble of large-scale data in order to provide tools to end users to ease their task. And the main challenges that we face today is that the data are more and more voluminous and more complex. And it's why in our domain topological data analysis we use intermediate representations of our data to do our analysis on them instead on the original data. There are several benefits to that. The first one is that this representation encode in a concise and compact manner the important information within the data. And also in terms of memory storage, they are in an order of magnitude way lower than the data themselves. So here, this is shown the persistence diagram, one of the most used representation in topological data analysis that will inform us about the presence of the structure inside the data. So here we have a 2D data that can be seen as an image, and we have represented here in the third dimension the pixel value in some way. So we have low values for the green color and high values for the blue color. And the 4 peaks of values of this image are encoded through the corresponding 4 bars in the persistence diagram. Unfortunately, the persistence diagram can lack indiscriminality. This is illustrated in this example where we have swapped the position of these 2 small peaks of value. And since the persistence diagram will only inform us about the presence of the structures and not how these structures are connected and organized together in the data, it results in the same representation for 2 data that are different. So to tackle this problem, we can use a more sophisticated topological abstraction called the mesh tree that will inform us, like the persistence diagram, about the presence of the structure inside the data, but also how these data are connected together thanks to this tree hierarchy. So recently there are a lot of methods that was proposed to analyze an ensemble of topological descriptors, specifically the notion of barycenter to compute an average mesh tree of an ensemble of mesh trees, for instance. But in this work we wanted to go beyond that simple notion of average to study the variance and the variability within an ensemble of topological descriptors. So we adapt the principal component analysis framework that I will describe later to make it able to process the specific objects that are the mesh trees and the persistence diagrams. So the data that we are interested on takes the form of regular grids or unstructured grids that can be seen as graph, and on each point there is a value. And then from these grids we can compute the persistence diagram and the mesh trees. Very briefly, the idea is that we do a filtration of our data by varying a threshold from the highest value to the lowest values, and looking at the part of the data having values above this threshold. And when we do this filtration, we can see that for some threshold values, connected components that will appear, and for other threshold values, we'll see some connected components that will merge together. And each structure in the data will be encoded only in the persistence diagram only with 2 values: the value for which this connected component appears during this filtration, and the value for which it merges with another component. So the persistence diagram is just a set of 2D points where each point corresponds to a structure inside the data described by these 2 values that we call the birth and the death of this connected component during the filtration. We can then compare a persistence diagram using the Vastatian distance from optimal transport that will result in an assignment between the points of 2 persistence diagrams. And we have roughly the same with mesh trees, but with a smaller solution space because we exploit the structure of the tree to restrict the assignment. So we have also this notion of barycenter, this notion of average, and we want to go beyond that notion to study the variability, the variance of an ensemble by extending the principal component analysis framework to mesh trees and persistence diagrams. So PCI is a dimensionality reduction method that takes point cloud in the Euclidean space and produces a lower dimensional embedding. To do so, it will optimize a basis of orthogonal vectors that best fits our point cloud. And the origin of this basis is the average of this point cloud. And then we can optimize one vector at a time by projecting the point cloud in this vector and then adjusting this vector to minimizing the projection error, to minimize the fitting energy. And to adapt this to the mesh trees and persistence diagram, we need to define these tools from the experience space to the persistence space of mesh trees and persistence diagrams. So the orthogonal basis we have as origin the barycenter of our ensemble of mesh trees. And then to define an axis in the persistence space, we will define that as a set of vectors that will move each point of the barycenter in one direction. And we will have another set of vectors that move the points in the opposite direction. And then these two sets of vectors will describe an axis in the persistence space. And then briefly the idea is that we want to project each input mesh tree into this axis and then modify this set of vectors to minimize the projection error, the fitting energy. And we need to iterate these two procedures, projection and optimization, until convergence. So for the experiments, we first evaluated we measured the computation time of our parallel algorithm on a collection of ensemble datasets from VIS contests with a dozen of members in each ensemble in average, and from dozen to 1,000 points in each descriptor on average. And the computation time varies from few seconds to dozens of minutes, but in average we are in order of minutes, so it's still a reasonable time for pre-processing for future analysis afterward. Regarding the applications, the first one was data reduction, where the goal was to compress an ensemble of topological descriptors by only keeping the bases that we have optimized and the coordinate of each input tree in this basis. And then the idea is to try to reproduce some analysis tasks that we can do with the original mesh trees and to reproduce them with the compressed mesh trees. So here we use the task of the feature tracking to track features over time in the time varying data sets, and we managed to reproduce the original tracking using the compressed mesh trees of our method. Then the second application was dimensionality reduction, when we use this coordinate in our basis as a coordinate in a 2D plane, and we compare our method to traditional dimensionality reduction methods such as PCA, VIS, and Tierny, and we evaluate this over our ensemble with indicators such as NMI and RI that will indicate how much the clusters are well separated in their bending, and with the SIM indicator that tells how much we have preserved the distances of the original space in their bending. And roughly what we need to remember here is that the MTPJ, our method, can be seen as a trade-off between MDS and TSNU. And finally, to analyze the variability inside an ensemble of dataset, given an ensemble of scalar field, the corresponding topological descriptors, we can create the 2D planar layouts. And most importantly, we have the persistence correlation view that will tell us which are the features of the data that vary the most within the ensemble. Each point in this circle corresponds to features in the data, and the points that are near the disk boundary, those that we have shown here in this figure, are those that vary the most within that number, those that are the most responsible for the variance. And the direction that in which points are narrow indicate that the structures will be the most present in that direction in the planar layout. So to conclude, we provided a computational framework for the PGA of mesh trees and persistence diagrams with application in variability analysis in ensembles. In terms of perspective, we can extend that kind of method to other topological abstraction or generalize the method of PCA to kernel PCA, but for mesh trees and persistence diagrams. So thank you very much, and I will be happy to take questions.